All right, so let's get into it. All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you so much for taking time in the middle of the Thursday to join us here. And if you've been watching, which is how you know to be here, Rachel and I have been doing some amazing stuff. We're really excited, and all of this is about her and I really reconnecting with our own joy and what brings us joy and connection and pleasure. And that's why we've called it our naturally connected life, where let's mute everybody. There we go. Great. And then Rachel, you can unmute yourself whenever you need to. Okay. So this is our naturally connected life project and community. And our focus here is on really helping ourselves, first of all, find connection, something that we really felt was missing, especially as we became young parents and stepped into that family life, and also obviously everything that happened over the last year. And then we moved to a whole new community. And we felt that, the things that connect us go beyond geographical distance. And naturally connected life is our offering to bridging the gaps. And as we discover new paths to joy, we want to share and inspire and be inspired by others on their journeys. And so I'd like to ask, what's one thing that brings you joy? And I'd like you to either type in the chat or you can unmute yourself and say it out loud and share with the group here. What's one thing that brings you joy?
Smiling.
My grandchildren.
Being connected and like helping other people, being connected, dancing, laughing, singing, expressing myself.
Nice. And I heard grandchildren.
Yeah, my grandchildren, and that's why being healthy and being the best that I can be, I do it for my grandchildren because I want to be there for them.
Nice. Yeah, Kirsty said animals, my children, and nature. Beautiful.
Nature.
Yeah.
Of course.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, walking.
Having a good workout.
Yeah, right. Getting into our bodies. Good workout. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I heard Kara, was that you saying walking?
Yeah. Walking and meditating and learning about the divine and.
Yeah. Great. Anyone else? Last chance. And so, look, we're a very diverse group here, right? Grandparents, single people, right? And everything in between. And yet, we have a lot of similarities, what we really crave, what we desire more of in our lives. And several people mentioned nature and, connecting with our bodies, having community, all of these things that really get to the heart, the root of what it means to be human. And when we connect with these things, it's amazing how we can learn to trust ourselves and our intuition and our bodies and go deep into that and creating a space for happiness and wholeness and wellness. So I'm Eric, and this is my wife, Rachel. And, maybe just like you guys, we found ourselves, just constantly looking for people and experiences that we felt like we were lacking the more that we questioned. And Rachel is going to share a bit about her story in the last few years, where really, we kind of got set off on a downward spiral of seeking outward and how it finally came back around to looking inward for what brings us joy and creating more of that in our lives. So did anybody else ever feel that way? Like when we're not connected with our joy, we start looking outward, we start scrolling Facebook or researching, trying to figure out what's wrong with our stomach or
Yeah.
some other obsession.
You know it. First-hand experience. First-hand experience definitely is like, oh no, something's wrong. Look, you start looking for external things. It's things for external because you're not connected. So of course it's bringing you out of your body. And if you're out of your body, then of course you're going to be outside. So the more you're inside and in your body, more connected, then the more you're connected to yourself, what brings you joy, source, and you'll start downloading like exactly what you need.
Exactly. Yeah. And it requires a shift in our course to guide us back to ourselves and asking ourselves what it is that we want more of in our lives. So, Rachel, please share a little bit.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Rachel. I know some of you, but I don't know all of you. And I just wanted to introduce myself as part of his better half in some ways, but in part as part of Naturally Connected Life and why we're creating this together. So I'm going to tell you just like a little bit about my story. And it started off, Eric and I have been married for a few years, but in like 2018, I guess it was December 2018, I was really not feeling well. I was about a year and a half postpartum. I was like depressed. I was anxious. I was sick to my stomach all the time. I couldn't eat like in the mornings, especially without feeling like nauseous and awful. I constantly needed a nap. And yes, that is like a side effect of having kids, but it's also like not, it's not normal to like need a nap all the time. And I really just wasn't happy. Like I wasn't that happy with my life. I wasn't happy where things were going. I was bickering with Eric way more than I needed to be. And I wasn't my best. I tried a lot of things. I tried paleo and keto, and that was really awful. And like none of it helped anyways. And so I was tired of searching, and obviously I had always had access to Eric and amazing practitioners, just because we've been in a community of people who are amazing holistic practitioners for a while. I had the internet, I had the ability to do all of the research and all of that, but none of that was changing it until I made one decision, until I decided that I was going to be healthy, that it was the time was now. And I had reached my breaking point. I said, I'm no more. I'm just going to feel well. I'm going to feel healthy. I'm going to be happy and energetic. And I decided, even if that wasn't exactly how I was feeling at that moment, that is exactly what I wanted and that I was going to be that person. And so that decision was really the thing that launched me. And just as Eric said, actually, just a minute ago, that's when the answers started coming to us, actually. Like we really actually received answers at that point because I made this, because we had both, actually this was a conscious decision between the two of us, but in January of 2019, we both made this decision that we're going to be well, like stop searching and be well. And so answers came to us easily and we deserved it. We felt like we finally deserved to live joyfully, and we lived a life of health and wellness that we had been searching all of these years and was even practicing, teaching, but it never landed until you really embody it. And so that is, the community appears, everything appears when the student is ready, right? There's that that saying. But we all deserve joy, right? Has anyone ever felt like they didn't deserve joy? Yeah. A little self-loathing, maybe a little like just down in the dumps, all about that like feeling of like, you know, questioning whether you deserve it or whether you're worth it or whether somebody else's needs are more important, right? That's a very common mom thing, but it's very common for a lot of empathetic people to place your needs outside of you instead of what you deserve, and the fact that you deserve joy and that you deserve wellness and health and happiness and a mental space that's really going to inspire you, right? So we all deserve joy, right? Can I hear everyone say, I deserve joy? No, I'm serious. Everyone has to like say it. I deserve joy.
I deserve joy.
I deserve joy,
Yeah, I need to
but I
hear it.
forget that I deserve it, and then I go back.
Exactly.
That happened, like you would like, yeah, and then 4 days later, you're back in the same swamp that you like. You don't even know it.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a pattern. Well, that's the thing. That's right. We all have that. We all have that feeling of like not being able to escape, or like, you know, failure to launch from the pattern that we recognize, and not being able to like escape the orbit or the gravitational pull of that. Sorry, there's a sciencey, you know, but that feeling of like, you know, that's I deserve better, and you know deep down, but it keeps pulling you back. So what can you do, right? What can you do to shift that and to break out, and to hold joy and carry joy all of the time, because we all deserve it. And even if you do lose it for a minute or two, to be able to come back and find that place of joy, and to find your worthiness, to find it in yourself, that you deserve health, that you deserve happiness, because we're never going to be healthy or happy until we believe that we deserve it, right? So my challenge now for everyone is this. I want to challenge you all to, and I'm going to put this in the Mighty Network for everyone to actually participate with, but I want you to look yourself in the mirror every day for the next week and say to yourself 10 times, I deserve joy. And if you don't cry, then you're on the right track and you're doing amazing. But if you do cry at some point, that's it. Then you know it's hitting home and even more. Because mirror, I don't know if anyone's ever done like mirror work like this. It's a very, Louise Hay is very strong. Like she has an entire book about it. But when you do this and you talk to your like inner self in this way, it brings up stuff, and all of the deep, dark, scary things that you don't, that are telling you that you don't deserve joy, or all of the things that are blocking you from deserving joy, are going to be the things that come up, right? So I'm going to post this challenge in the Mighty Network, and everyone, I want you to all to start commenting as you do it and see what happens. Like, tell me how you're feeling, tell me what's coming up, because it's a very powerful practice to do for yourself, and it can literally transform your mindset in like a day, in like 2 or 3 days. There's some other mantras that she tells you to do as well, that she has you do in her book, and they're amazing, and it really will transform your mentality quickly if you allow it to penetrate, and you allow it to like sink in and really feel that you deserve joy.
What's
Hi,
the book?
Wendy. I think it's just called Mirror Mirror by Louise Hay. I'm not sure. I'll post it when I post the challenge. So yeah, so we all deserve joy. Remind yourself again, everyone, I deserve joy.
I deserve joy.
I deserve joy.
I deserve joy.
Yes, excellent, awesome. All right, so for a second, I want you all to close your eyes and just repeat that like a few times in your head. Take a few deep breaths in. I deserve joy.
I deserve joy.
I deserve joy. I deserve joy.
And the more you say it out loud, the better too. Like it's great to say it in your head. That's also wonderful. But saying it out loud really just like makes the universe remember for you. It helps the universe to remember. All right. So now we're going to transition into Eric doing some practices that will help us. The mirror challenge, I would recommend say to do in the morning. It's a really great time, especially like right when you wake up. Some people don't like looking in the mirror right when they wake up. That's whatever. That's the best time to do it probably actually. But you know, say it so that it's affecting the rest of your day. You know, the earlier the better. So Eric's gonna cover some other really great exercises to launch your morning, because we both believe 100% that your morning is like the launching point for the day, and it really sets the tone for how you're going to do things and how you're going to handle things. And it was part of my story, one of the things that we changed was that we committed to getting up before my son did every morning. And that actually is one of the biggest shifts, because that made us have time for ourselves to meditate, to journal. I was writing, you know, it gave us time to collect and to be in the right space, like in frame of mind before things start coming at you. So
before the toddler took over.
Yeah. But it doesn't matter if you have a kid or not, because even still, everyone has a morning that can be distracted by your phone. Also, actually, very conveniently as part of the story, we also stopped keeping our phones in the bedroom at the exact same time, so that the first thing that you see in the morning is not your phone. Because that kind of sets you on this trajectory, right, of reaction.
I remember in the city, I was at some kind of a gathering, and one of the women there, she seemed like on another level, and she said that she did the mirror work, and she said, she's like, I know it seems whatever, but she said, I woke up every morning, and she was totally like gorgeous, like, you could feel her, like, her joy.
Mhm.
And she said, I wake up and I say, I love you to myself in the mirror. And so.
Yeah. Later this spring, a friend of mine, a woman who she's a professor at Columbia, and is a psychology researcher. She's going to be doing a workshop for our Mighty Network on some deep mirror work. It's going to be really great. Probably in a couple of months.
Great.
Yeah. So a lot of great stuff like that coming. So thank you, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
And now how's everybody feeling after that? Is everybody feeling some joy? Great. So now, like Rachel was saying, that a big part of why we are starting with this is because the things that we do first thing in the morning really set the tone for the rest of the day. And when we can start to set our default to our joy and our pleasure, our bodies start to reorganize themselves towards that new default. And this is why so many people they've tried everything, nothing works, because their default is still stuck in what they don't want. So I'd like to take a moment now and share another exercise that's very simple and easy to do at any time during the day, anytime you feel stressed out. And I also recommend for people when they're starting my program, because sometimes there's a lot of fear or anxiety around food, to do exercises like this right before they eat to help them get out of an anxiety state and get into their bodies and into a place where food can be nourishing instead of another source of stress. Okay. So this is a very simple breathing exercise. It's called alternate nostril or box breathing. And the easiest way to do this is to take your right hand and thumb your nose. Like that, right? And have fun with it. But now what we're going to do is so now our right nostril is plugged. We're going to inhale on the left. And when we get to the top, we're going to switch. You can use your pinky or your forefinger, whatever works. And when you're at the top, you exhale on the other side. And then inhale again. And then we switch after the inhale. And you can keep going at your own pace. But just like the hemispheres of the brain, which have different functions, right? Some people are right brain dominant, some are left brain dominant. Our nostrils actually change during the day. They become dominant one side or the other. Some people might notice this more at night when they're sleeping and they go, oh, my one side is always clogged. And that's an attempt of your nervous system to help rebalance. So unconsciously, your body inflames one side of your sinuses. To help balance by making you breathe out of the other side. Maybe take a couple more. It's always nice to end with a sigh, just release. Yeah.
So wait, so I would breathe in. So as I breathe in, and then let go on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
and then breathe in again, and then change, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Just go back and forth. And you might find at different times of the day that you have a harder time breathing through one side or the other, and that changes. And that is all your nervous system trying to rebalance. And so when we do this and we work on both sides like that, it very quickly brings the nervous system into balance and helps you trigger what's called the parasympathetic response. So if you're feeling stressed and you're having anxiety, or you're about to enter a situation that you know is stressful, and for some people this could be food, right? It's a really great practice because it helps really solidify and like ground the nervous system into a parasympathetic state. And so that's the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight. And the parasympathetic, just like a paramedic, is the part of our physiology, our nervous system, that gets us into a deep, restful state for healing and calm and peace and focus and being able to connect with our joy. So joyfulness is a direct extension of our nervous system. And if we're stuck in a sympathetic nervous state, it is almost impossible to connect with our joy. Right? The metaphor is, we're in a sympathetic nervous state, our fight or flight, right? If we're running from a bear in the woods, we're not going to stop to admire some wildflowers. Okay, our body is not going to say, hey, let's make sure we're, digesting all that food really well. It's going to be in a stress state, which sends all of the energy and resources to what is essential to our survival or being able to fight or run. And that system only has so much capability. It's like running on overdrive constantly. And then we live in a society that really puts so much emphasis on what's wrong with everything and what we're supposed to be afraid of, that it gets us into this state of high anxiety where we're constantly wondering if we're doing something wrong, even when it's something we enjoy, right? Who here has been told that, I love coffee, but coffee might be bad for me, right? Who here has been told I love ice cream, but no, ice cream might be bad for me. I mean, the reality is life might not be good for you, right? The sage Osho, he has this great book called Fear, and it's just a collection of his talks. And one of the things he talks about is that people think they're afraid of all these things, right? Oh, I'm afraid of gluten. No, you're not really afraid of gluten. You're afraid of living. Because you can't really be afraid of anything, including death, because we don't even know what death is. And that fear prevents us from living in the first place. It prevents us from doing the things that we love, the things that we enjoy. It prevents us from finding love because we might get hurt. So after that breathing exercise, did anybody feel anything? Feel any different? Notice anything?
More relaxed, definitely. Definitely more relaxed.
Great.
I'm
Did you notice? Oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's more clear. Kind of wakes me up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say it kind of helped relieve the fog of the day, that had been building up from working for 5 hours already. It just kind of
Right.
like cleared my head so that I feel ready to continue.
Great.
What
And-
else? What was the first woman that spoke? She was going to say something else. What was she going to say?
No, I wasn't going to say anything else.
Oh,
I just felt
okay.
I was more relaxed, but thank you.
I just thought I just can't get over like the whole, like when your one sinus gets clogged, like all of a sudden, like that does happen. And you're just like, what the hell's just going on? And that's
Something's wrong.
yeah. Well, there
Yeah.
is, right? There is, because your nervous system wants to self-regulate again, or needs to
But it-
self-regulate.
But it's
Yeah.
working. It's working
Exactly.
for you, not against you, what you think.
Right. So great example, right, is that if we take a moment to turn our attention inward, our body gives us all of these cues. Right? The body is telling you, hey, it's like you were just at the gym and you were just doing curls with your right arm for an hour. Like, give your right arm a break and use your left arm. Same thing happens with our nervous system, with the hemispheres of our brain.
So so that when that happens, that clog, there's something wrong. It's a sign that like your brain is out of balance.
Or just looking to rebound, to maintain balance, right? We don't have to assume there's something wrong. We don't have to assume that you're out of balance. We just
I
can
know I
say,
was going to say wrong.
Like when you walk,
Yeah.
you go from leg to leg
yes. Yeah, exactly.
and arm to arm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Otherwise, you just walk in a circle. Right. And I think a lot of people, especially when it comes to health and wellness and mental well-being and all these other things, sometimes we feel like we're walking around in circles because we haven't made time every day to check in with our body and see where we're veering off course.
Yeah, that's a metaphor that I think about a lot, actually. Like if I think like, oh, I'm trying to forward my life, but I don't care about forwarding my sexuality. then it's like,
Yeah,
it's just like walking with one leg. You can still get somewhere, but it's just not really the same thing.
right. So we have to always be asking ourselves, where can we create more balance, more harmony, more peace? And 9 times out of 10, that's also going to bring us more joy.
So we want to really stop focusing on the external sources, right? Like you were saying, is it something outside of me? Is it the carbs? Is it the fat? Is it gluten? Is it Mercury retrograde? I don't know. Like you can find anything that is an external source, right? Is it Donald Trump's fault? I don't know. You name it. Like we could all find like something outside of us that is to blame for what the lack of joy that we're having. But the reality is we create our own joy. We create it every single day, every single moment of the day, every morning of the day. And so what if we weren't afraid? What if we weren't afraid anymore? What if the focus was not on the fear and we chose to focus on life? I don't know if anyone has seen the movie. There's this movie that just came out recently, Soul. It's on Disney. It's a Disney movie. It's actually really good. It has a really great grown-up message. So it's on Disney Plus. But
What did Roger Ebert say? He's like, it's like Pixar.
Grew up and went to philosophy class or something like that.
Got high and went to philosophy school.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really great. It really typifies this in that like you're living your life every single day. You don't have to wait for the big thing to happen. You live your life every day, and how you live your life every day is your life, right? That is. And so are we choosing to live our life every day with joy, or are we choosing it to live it every day in fear of the next thing that we eat, or the next, the next painful bout that we might have, or whatever symptom that we might have? Are we afraid of these things, or are we choosing a life that's different? Are we choosing something that's connected and choosing into being with our body and not against our body?
I just want to jump in. That's exactly what what I've been learning about meditating and consciousness. It's exactly what consciousness is. Basically, there's one space for everything to happen. You're seeing, you're smelling, you're connecting with other people. It's just one space. And consciousness is already relaxed. It is already open. And once you see that, then you can, I guess, I'm learning to, be in that place. And the more you connect to that open space, the more you can live in that moment and see and be clear.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And, harking back to Rachel's story, when she made that decision that she was going to be well, she was going to be happy and joyful, and how that shifted everything for her. My experience of it was going from being responsible for how she felt to being a co-creator in our experience.
Is it just
That
because
was the
she gets
major
to eat
shift.
ice cream? Is just because she gets to eat ice cream?
This happened before I was allowed to eat ice cream. The shift actually happened long before we started eating dairy again, actually.
I mean, this diet is so freaking triggering for me. Like I am just I'm ballistic. I am so ballistic because it's like everything that I thought I wouldn't do. He's like, do it. And I'm like, this is really.
Yeah. And how do you feel when you're able to eat things that you enjoy and not feel guilty about it?
Well, I'm not really there yet, but
we can still work on the guilt. But you can feel the joy in the moment, at least. That's the starting place. Like every bite of that ice cream, feel feel it, feel the joy. I literally ate chocolate ice cream from a carton yesterday. So
I can attest to the fact that once you've gotten to the point where you can start eating things again that you had eliminated, it does really give you a lot of joy. I found these great like mini ice cream sandwiches, organic ice cream sandwiches. And that's my nighttime snack now. And I just like savor it. It's just like, oh, it's so good.
I mean, this A2 milk is just like, you know, I'm milk. I'm not going to drink milk, but like milk, turkey sausage. I mean, it's like, and like having this joy of this really creamy milk that I bought at the Whole Foods today, this A2 farm milk from this farm was like, wow, this is nice and creamy. And like,
Did you find A2 milk that didn't have vitamin A added? I haven't been able to find it here.
no, I mean, it's in Whole Foods. I mean, I'm right there and it's not
I'll have to
added.
check again.
And this one doesn't even have vitamin D added either. So, yeah.
Right. And so we learn, you know, how to sift through, right? Because these are foods, all of these foods, you know, not just dairy. Yeah, not just dairy, but foods that human civilization has thrived on for thousands of years that, you know, we figured out. I mean, humans are geniuses. We figure out how to mess up everything. That's great. And created, you know, the conditions by which that, yeah, food could be tainted. And once we learn how to sift through that and get in touch with our intuition and let that pull us towards what feels right, what feels nourishing, that gives us the opportunity to reconnect with that joy and that pleasure. And if there's a correction that's happening, right, if we're like way over here in self-deprivation and struggle and suffering and sacrifice, and now we're trying to find our way back to the middle, well, at first, the course correction might bring us a little bit over this way. And we feel like, wow, we're like overindulging. I don't know where the balance is yet. But we continue to check in, tune in, and say, okay, you know what? Yes, I do get joy from ice cream. Do I get joy from an entire pint of it at once? Maybe. Maybe not in the morning. But that's all about that self-awareness and self-discovery and self-regulating instead of feeling outside forces weighing down on us, telling us what's right and wrong. There's a famous poem about, you know, there's a field out there beyond right and wrong, and when you're ready, I'll meet you there. And that was, you know, by a great Sufi poet who, you know, had a strong connection with her own divinity, her own spiritual being that she used as her guide. And her words now resonate, you know, almost 1,200 years later in a way that says this, you know, there's something more than labeling things right and wrong and good and bad. There can just be. And when we step into that and allow, there's a presence and an awareness that allows us to flow and stop questioning ourselves, stop doubting ourselves.
Can I say that sometimes I feel like it's not even a conscious thing that you have to do, but just for me, just taking control of my health and doing the things that I need to do to be better physically and mentally, that all this other stuff is kind of following along by itself. Does that make sense? Is that?
Yeah, you're in the flow. You're in the flow of knowing, okay, I feel better than I did yesterday or a year ago. And you try something and you see what the result is. Does this contribute to my sense of well-being and happiness? or is it subtracting from it?
I went home to see my parents, and before I had all this like, oh, I can't eat gluten, can't eat this, can't eat that, and I said, oh, those blueberry pancakes look so delicious. I'm just gonna try this, and this crumb cake that my brother sent them, and these pies, and this chocolate cake I bought them for his birthday. So no, I went out and like, look, dude, I'm gonna eat this stuff and just see what happens. If am I gonna like end up in the bathroom and like horribly ill, and I felt a little. I did feel a little bad after all this, but it wasn't as bad as I had like imagined this. And it was like, okay, I'm a little flatulent and all this, but no, I'm survived, and I know a little bit more how to go about this, and it's just this exploration is, this is great.
That's it. Exactly. You nailed it. It's exploration and developing self-awareness and learning what our needs and our limitations are. So we know how to balance all of that for ourselves. And so the goal is to develop that inner compass and that inner awareness so that we're no longer seeking for solutions outside of us. We figure out how to keep ourselves in balance and feeling good. And then that's the shift from being stuck to being in just unlimited growth, unlimited potential. Because now we're no longer consumed with what's happening moment to moment. Is this right? Is this wrong? We have reconnected with our own inner compass to guide us through food choices, through exercise choices, through romantic choices. All of these decisions that if something has thrown our self-confidence, it's like dominoes. We suddenly lose our confidence in all areas of our life. And so this all begins with the mindset saying, okay, I might not be ready for those blueberry pancakes and chocolate cake, but what am I ready for that is going to improve what I'm feeling, that is going to bring me a sense of increase in awareness and presence, where I want to be in a body that feels good, that feels comfortable. And at the beginning, that might require a very simplified diet, but you know that the things that you're consuming feel good. You take the time to reset what you desire to focus on what really inspires and what nourishes you. So the question is, who do you want to be?
Eric, can you hear me?
Yeah.
One of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking is I picked this up from this spiritual business course I'm in, and it's the phrase playful curiosity and approaching life, all parts of life, through a sense of playful curiosity.
Mm.
And as you know, you and I are in contact, because this diet is very wild for me. And granted, I came to it from keto, so obviously my options are still way bigger than what I had to deal with before. it's still really challenging. And that keto just really hammers it into you that you can't do sugar and carbs. So I'm still working with that. But also just the simplicity, just how little I can eat, like our conversation about peas and green beans. I was so completely like, I have to eat vegetables. I don't eat vegetables, I won't be able to go to the bathroom. Like, this is what keto taught me, right? It was just like, oh my God, this is killing me. But at the same time, after we had that conversation, I'm like, okay, I know who I'm going to give all these vegetables to. I'm actually on the way there now. And I just was like, if it means that I eat zucchini, mushrooms, and celery well cooked with my meats and a lot of fruit, a lot more fruit, then that's just what it is. For now, it's playful curiosity, because what I want to know is that I'm doing what's best for my body. And
Right.
I can say that coming from keto, at least with that, doing that 5 months before I started this, it got me already to, for me as someone who before this would have just never happened, it got me used to having limited choices and being okay with that. So it kind of, in that way, it prepped me. And, but it's all about the playful curiosity with this whole thing, because you're just constantly trying to see how it affects you. And again, like, who do you want to be? How do you want to feel? And yeah, and I'm leaning into the process, and I'm also leaning back into the process. Just being like, hey, the last thing you need to do is be perfectionistic, because you know that will just shut it all down. So I appreciate your guidance and your way of being, because it's made this experience infinitely easier, and it's paying off. As you know, we talked about this. I feel better, I feel a lot better. But also, when I first talked to you in mid-November, and I was telling you that keto wasn't working for me, I was in such a bad physical state that it felt like it just took me 2 months to get back to zero.
Right.
But even with that, even though it took me December and January to get back to like a level place, the supplements helped so much, and the diet helped so much, and being able to have a little bit of honey with my yogurt was actually hugely helpful. It just made me feel better. I'm like, I love that I can put honey in my tea, and you know, all these things. I'm like, I love that I can have yogurt and I can have fruit, and I took so much joy out of eating this apple yesterday. And I'm like, what the hell's wrong with me? Why did it take me 2 months to eat an apple?
Yeah.
But now I'm eating them, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to have all this fruit in my refrigerator, because this is really delicious. What have I been doing? Forget the peas.
Yeah. So what
Pineapple.
happened, right? What was the choice for you to experience?
Well, the choice was just letting go of the idea that I only could eat vegetables to go poop. And conveniently forgetting that fruit also makes you go poop. But after keto, I was traumatized. I was so traumatized.
Yeah. And so what you're describing is like landing home in your body.
That is exactly it. And I have not felt this in a really long time. And
Yeah.
it feels really good to be on this path, even though I tell people I'm 70% on the diet. I'm not 100%. But 70% is already working, already is helping a lot.
Yeah.
I'll work towards 100.
Well,
But
what
it's
is
already
100%? What is 100% going to look like to you? Because that is not going to be anybody else's 100%. 100% is when you take 100% ownership of your choices. When you say, I'm going to choose this, and I'm choosing the results, good or bad, and not asking permission, right?
Mhm. You don't see me, I'm nodding. Greetings from MTA.
That's the journey. That's the journey.
Yeah, no, it is the journey. But I'm grateful, because after, again, like the extreme nature of keto, this just feels in some ways easier, more gentle, kinder. I'm just kind of like, it's all right, Monica, don't worry about it. Like, because I think that I had extreme blood sugar issues before. That's why keto helped me so much and made me feel better. I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. I can think again, clearer, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought that it was the answer, but then in time I realized it was not the answer at all. It was actually not making things worse, quote unquote, but it was just not supporting me. It was not a good thing for me. So once I hit that wall, coming back out from that has been an exercise in self-compassion and empathy and patience and all the things that can make one feel connected and loving towards. For me, it makes me, I feel more connected to myself. I'm like in this great place of feeling like, wow, this is amazing. All of my energy right now, I'm single, is being closed into me. It's being refocused into me, and I have all this time. Um, it feels very expansive to be able to take care of myself like this. Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Monica. So now I'd like to, as we move to the end of the call here today, I'd like to ask a final question. Finish this statement. I am the kind of person who blank. What's the first thing that comes into your head? You can add it in the chat or unmute yourself and speak it out loud.
I am the kind of person that brings joy to other people.
Beautiful. I see knows things and keeps exploring, who is tenacious. Great. And this is the reason I'm asking that question is because, again, this is all about developing self-awareness. No longer asking for permission to be who you know deep down that you are. No longer asking for permission to desire the things that you desire. And it's okay to desire things that might not be good for you, and you find out very quickly that they're not good for you, and you let go of that desire. And you can move on to the next thing and continue that playful exploration, like Monica was saying, figuring out who you are, what you desire, what brings you joy. And so even if you're somebody who has worked with me in the past, if you've decided right now that you want to be someone who's committed to living a joyful, pleasurable life, this is your invitation to schedule another call with me. Have another conversation, one that is rooted in your desires, your pleasure, your growth, and creating a naturally connected life that works for you, that creates the body that you deserve, that you imagine, and everything else that comes from having a body. So Rachel is going to put the link for scheduling calls into the chat box. They're also on the website. Okay. And we have a few minutes now for, just some Q&A or chit chat. If anybody has any questions or comments, wants to share what what they experienced from the exercises we did today, or what's coming up for you?
I just want to share. This is amazing, Eric. This is, things happen so much better. It works. You get so much more done when you work with other people. Things don't happen in a cave. Right? I could go in a cave and do all this diet and pick all these supplements. You know, it's like, but you know, when we start sharing this with other people, hearing everyone else's stories, it really becomes real, and really becomes so much better and so much clearer. I mean, to see other people are having the same kind of things come up, yeah, it's really beautiful. I mean, yeah, I was, you know, I guess I think it was Kirsty was talking about the different things that she was going through. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I was going through that too. And it's like, oh, I mean, other people are doing this too, and I have other people to, you know, collaborate or talk with and share. This is, yeah, it's beautiful. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
That's definitely one of the reasons that we were really excited to create community around this, because it's wonderful, like, to work one-on-one with Eric, as I've seen so many people get really amazing results. But I think that, like, we will be tripling and quadrupling people's abilities and results and sense of stick to itness by creating a community and creating you know, accountability within other people besides just Eric, because Eric can only hold so much of all of these people's stuff, you know, and can only hold so much, that we need, that it's amazing that we have other people to support us, and we have all of these other people who, like you said, have the same experiences that we do and want the same things, and therefore we can all work together in a very naturally connected way.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful to be able to share Rachel now, because of how much, you know, she's held space for me and my growth and my being able to, you know, hold space for this work. And what she's contributed is now being available within our coaching program. And that's like a whole new level, a whole different dynamic. Obviously, the feminine, yin and yang, and having that balance, that is really, I can see Eric is like, ah.
So I want to share that thinking about the mirror exercise is one thing that has been a real challenge for me for years is that I'm just a little bit too tall, where like most mirrors don't work for me at all. Like you have to like here, or at best is like maybe here.
I have the opposite problem.
And I've recently rearranged some stuff in my home where there are now 2 places I can go where I can kind of stand up straight. And also I've been hanging out a little more in a place where I have some like full length views. But still, like when I want to shave or clean my face, I still have to bend way over. So I'm gonna try to find a fix for that. I do have this one, which was meant to like help with skincare and kind of self-awareness and stuff. Second thing is something I was just thinking about, like I really want to get into a practice of Wim Hof breathing, but I always just like chicken out. And so yesterday I had this idea, like, oh, well, if I just turn my music up loud, then like I'll have privacy, you know, like whatever I need. Like everyone in my house is really supportive, but I still just will always chicken out. And so I had that idea. And then another thing I wanted to share is that you know, professionally, I want to get back into using a lot of technology, and my computer is working good, but it's also really slowing down. So I just got myself one of the little fast ones, and now I have to start using that. And for me, actually, I'll share this as well. For me, a huge part of trying to be productive with a computer is trying to find furniture that can support my body for like kind of a reasonable period of time. So still have another sort of another basic, maybe that's like the fourth leg of the table, right? So I have the mirror, the breath, the computer, and the furniture.
Yeah, right. Like
you need to get one of those things where you can alternate between standing and sitting with your computer.
Yeah, I found a couple good deals. I'm trying to make sure that they're tall enough for me.
Yeah, so you've identified things that you had been tolerating.
Or, I mean, they had been tolerating me, basically.
Either way, toleration in your life.
Intolerant.
Right. Tolerating things that, aren't really working for us. And this quote that I had seen recently that really struck me was that, the things that you're not changing, you're choosing. Right. So, if you're not changing your mirrors, you're choosing these mirrors that you have to stoop over and look
And
into.
honestly, part of it has been the like frustration that nobody believes me when I tell them these things are important. Like I know they are, and I don't ever doubt myself, but I still like get tripped up.
Yeah, that was a huge thing for me. In Brooklyn, my office was in a basement with no windows. And all my neighbors were musicians, and it was loud. And the lights were blinding, fluorescent LEDs or whatever. And I just tolerated it, and it made me miserable, because when you put all that energy into tolerating something, then you don't have any energy left for other things like your wife and your child, because you just put so much effort into not just going into a rage and
breaking all the lights.
And so now I've got, I'm in this, big office. I have my window right here next to me. And I got a window I can look out of. I'm just like, oh my God, a window. This is amazing. What a luxury. And there's no sirens out there. We moved to Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
I've been there. It's beautiful.
It's amazing. It was the greatest decision you ever made, because we decided there were the list of things that we had to tolerate to stay in New York City. Just wasn't worth it. And there were things that we didn't want to have to tolerate. And now we have everything we want here. We just decided that our joy and our happiness was always going to take precedent, and that we weren't going to, and that we weren't going to wait for permission.
Wow.
Get the things that we want. And so like I'm at a standing desk.
Yeah.
And we spent a month looking and finding one that I was like, yes, that's perfect. And I have I can sit. I have a big stool if I want to, but I don't have to tolerate being stuck at uncomfortable.
And do you have a footrest? So you can put one foot up?
There's a bar. I don't really ever use it, but
I use the bar when I stand there.
Yeah, I found this recently. A foot massaging thingy, and once in a while I rub my feet on there. But honestly, I find that most of the time I just stand, and with my feet flat on the ground, and then I just massage my feet. And if I do get tired or uncomfortable, I can sit if I want to, and I can also stretch and move and not feel restricted. And so I don't have to tolerate any of that discomfort anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. You talked about the dynamic with you and Rachel from going from responsible to co-creator. Can you just a bit more on that? Because it's so nice to hear from a man's brain of, fix it, but you also, so.
Yeah. Well, it's always challenging to see somebody you care about struggling or suffering.
Mhm.
And, if that person is not in a good place to take responsibility, to be proactive,
Mhm.
we can make the assumption that it's just our job to fix it, right? Oh, maybe I need to pay for her to go to acupuncture, or pay for her to do some sort of program, or get her some better supplements, right?
Yeah.
To try to fix the problems for the
Mhm.
person. But the reality is that that person has the opportunity to stop wanting to be fixed.
Yeah.
And I think I guess that's the running joke, right? That men are always trying to fix things, and I just wanted to complain. And so that was a shift to where Rachel said, well, no, this is my body.
Mm.
This is my responsibility.
Yeah.
These are things that aren't working for me, and I'm choosing now to change them.
I think that something that we, like, as partners frequently do is we will frequently try to parent the other person in a sense, and that we become like more of a parent role with our partner instead of taking on the co-creator, the equal partners kind of role. And so when we don't feel like, when we take responsibility for ourselves each individually, we can say, I don't need to I don't need you to parent me. I love you, and you aren't my parent.
Right.
Like, we have, that's not the relationship that I want to have, like, with my partner. And so we can shift that, and we can choose differently, and we can make that different, because, and also it comes from that person too. And I think that frequently something that, like, relationship dynamic wise is very male female sometimes, but I'm sure that there's other people in different types of, in other relationships, non-male female relationships, that experience this, but where one person is like the fixer, and then one person is the I don't want to say the complainer, but like, that was me. And like, and the reality is that, like, sometimes as women, we just want to, like, say what's wrong, and we just want to talk about what's wrong, and we just want to express what's wrong, and we want to, be like, I need to say this, but like, I also have to remind Eric, and I'm like, but you don't have to fix it. Just because I said it doesn't mean you have to fix it. And that's actually his responsibility to, like, hold that space and say, okay, this is your space to say whatever you want, whatever crazy things come out of your mouth is fine. But like, okay, I hear you. And that's it. Like, that can be it.
Wow.
Yeah. Because we don't have to, he doesn't have to be there to, like, constantly fix it. And I actually do this in other relationship dynamics with, like, my sister and stuff like that. Like, I'm constantly like, and so it plays out in a lot of different ways, but it's like, we don't always need advice. We just need to be heard.
Yeah.
Ooh, very good.
Yeah. You don't have to be in a relationship to experience that dynamic.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, just touching on that, I mean, that's true for, like, any relationship, yourself, roommates. Yes. I mean, yeah, comes up, especially with, I think I'm finding roommates, something comes up like, oh, this is going like here, I wish this, and such a tendency as me wanting to help, well, why don't you do this, or do, and then it's like, no. I mean, just, just to have that person hear that is really helps a lot more.
And there's another piece to it, I think, too, is that when we do that, we're not allowing the other person to show up fully in their self. We're not allowing them to take responsibility. Like we all want that. But if we rush in to like fix it, we're not allowing them to take responsibility. I find that even with like small children, this like is a dynamic that like I frequently have had to stop myself from doing, is that we frequently were like, stop, no, don't do that. But like that prevents, you know, your child, like sometimes that prevents your child from learning. Like it prevents them from making the mistake, and you know, it's okay. Like, and teaching that it's okay to make mistakes and all of that. Like, but it's adults too, we're all constantly reparenting ourselves, like is essentially it. So we're, you know, we have to allow the other person to like make mistakes sometimes, or to just, you know, not sit in their own not knowing. Like, what if we just sat and like not knowing? What would that be like?
Well, something that's coming up for me about this process of like detecting something and calling it out is this sort of emerging idea of prevalence-based perception, where like you are going to be detecting the things that your brain can detect no matter how prevalent they are. So like if there's a lot of dirt on the floor, you'd be like, there's dirt on the floor. But even if there's only a little bit, you'll still notice, oh, there's dirt on the floor.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering what maybe the interaction is with like sharing that. So it's not just rattling around in your head, be like, yeah, there's dirt on the floor in your room. It says, yeah, there's a little dirt on the floor. And that way you don't have to be like primally attuned to it.
Mm.
And sometimes and then that way, another thing that occurs to me is like when you say, oh, there's dirt on the floor, and they say, yeah, there's dirt on the sink. Like they're helping you detect it, so you get up to that quota of detection and you don't need to find problems where there aren't any.
Right. Well, the saying, like, you know, where attention goes, energy flows, right? And I guess what you're kind of coupling that with this idea, like there's a threshold,
yeah,
of toleration. Like I can tolerate this much dirt before I notice it, before it bothers me. I can tolerate this much pain before, you know, I try to figure out how to get rid of the pain. And it's interesting because there's a concept in the alignment, the body work that I've been doing for several years of that where you have pain is where you're compensating. So something else is out of alignment, and the thing that you're doing to compensate for that thing out of alignment that you have not chosen to fix or can't fix is why you suffer, is why you have discomfort, because you're doing something that is outside of your, like, the innate physiological function, and that doesn't feel good. It's unnatural. So the better course of action is to say, okay, I'm feeling this pain. I'm I'm compensating for something in my life or in my body. What is that? Can I address that directly instead of continuing to compensate? Right. So with the dirt on the floor, maybe it's because your roommate didn't get the memo. You know, this is a shoes off household. We don't wear our shoes in the house, but your one roommate thinks they're above the rules, and they come in, they wear their shoes, and they make a mess. They track mud through the house. And so, you know, it's painful to continuously keep cleaning up after your roommate versus having the uncomfortable conversation where we say, hey, we like our floors clean in this house. Right? So there's always moving through some sort of discomfort to get to that growth, to get to that desired outcome. And for some people, you know, making the decision to face that discomfort isn't less painful than just continuing to suffer. And so they choose that.
And I think that part of it too might be that discomfort is really something that it's up for interpretation, right? Like discomfort, like can be, I mean, like I don't think everyone's had a baby here, but like discomfort, labor. You have a baby, like while you're having a baby, your body is physically going through pain. Like it is pain with a purpose, like is essentially what they call it. Like the point is that they're like, to get to that goal at the end, there's sometimes some pain, like, and it might be uncomfortable, like, but pain isn't always like pain, discomfort, shall we say, is not always a bad thing. It's something to notice.
Yeah, or like, if I may, when you're tripping on mushrooms, you get to a point where you're like, whoa, 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 I don't know if I like this. But then you're like, or do I? You know, like, what does it mean to like this or not like this?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, because the reality is that if you have a physical body with a nervous system and emotions, you're going to have pain. What kind of pain are you going to choose?
Right. And because of those thresholds, you're never going to really get that far away from the amount of threats that you're detecting.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's always going to be something, and, I think there's the other extreme, right? Like you could be a monk and go live in a cave by yourself and have somebody hand you a bowl of tsampa every other day, right? And you'll be very safe in your cave. But is that living?
All right, time for me to get out of the cave.
Welcome. Come into the light.
That's our goal. That's our goal for everyone, is to live a connected life so that you are not in a cave alone, right?
Yeah. Yeah, when we stop asking for permission, we stand in contribution.
What do you mean we stand in contribution?
We connect with purpose, right? We don't have time to see the dirt on the floor anymore.
This is coming from someone
doesn't bother us.
Sees a lot of dirt on the floor.
Yeah, we live with a husky and a toddler. So, and it's a choice.
And I'm a neat freak, crazy neat freak. Would vacuum every day if I could.
And it's a choice. What are we going to focus on?
But yeah, I like that phrase that you use, because like when you stop asking permission, like permission is such a powerful frame in our, in our American culture. And but there's other frames like opportunity, or like you said, contribution. And like the opposite of permission is not like arrogance. It can be many other things,
Yeah. Wonderful. So I think that's all we have for today. I hope this was informative and inspiring, and we will have a recording that you'll be able to review or share as you feel so called. You do not need my permission. And anything else, Rachel?
Yeah, we will be having we'll have another community call like this. And then for anyone who's part of our Connected Roots program, we'll be having more regular calls that are for our one-on-one and group clients, which we're really excited about.
Yeah.
So
all right.
I hope everyone feels inspired and joyful. And don't forget about your joy mirror work. I'm going to post it in the Mighty Network today at some point. So do it and see. I want to see what kind of results you get and what kind of feelings happen and come up.
Yeah. So let's close. Let's have everybody unmute. And on 3, we'll all say, I deserve joy. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I deserve joy.
Joy.
Deserve joy.
I deserve joy.
Deserve joy.
Awesome.
And I enjoyed this. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.